Hello, everyone. Welcome to Factora's June community event. We are so excited for you to join us today. My name is Liz Pataki, and I am the community manager here at Factora. I am coming to you from sunny and very hot Tampa, Florida. I would love to know where everyone else is calling in from. So when you have a second, drop in the chat your location so we can get to know everyone a little bit better. Okay, so community events like this one are done once a month at Factora to allow us to reach more women when it comes to financial education. We do cover a variety of topics, so be sure to check our website for future community events. If today is your first Factora event, we welcome you graciously and thank you so much for joining us. For those who don't know us yet, Factora is a personal finance education company that teaches women how to invest and build wealth. We are on a mission to lead 1 million women to $1 million of net worth. And we do that through our 12-week live online investment course called The Wealth Circle. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic, Travel Hacking 101, how to travel more, spend less, and make the most of your time off. In just a minute, you'll hear from Lindsay of One Girl Wandering. She is a pro traveler who is on a mission to experience and see as much of the world as she can. She's going to share all her tips so we too can find the best travel deals, as well as save money and take full advantage of our PTO to see more of the world. One quick reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A feature on Zoom. We will do our best to get to as many as we can at the end. First, I want to pass it off to Factora's founder and CEO, Allegra. Please take it away.
Okay, we were having a little trouble with the chat. We had it turned off, but now we're starting to see where you're all calling in from. So I'm seeing Phoenix, California, Puerto Vallarta, love it, Dallas, Connecticut. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, getting out of the very hot weather in Austin for the month. And I'm so excited about this event because we all love traveling, right? And we want to be doing more of it, but we want to do it as thoughtfully and affordably as possible. So I'm really, really excited that we were able to put together this event with One Girl Wandering. That's her internet name, but her real name is Lindsay. And I even know her maiden name because, fun fact, Lindsay and I went to an all-girls high school together in little old Virginia. So let me just paint the picture. When I first met Lindsay, she was a theater kid. She still is in a lot of ways, but hopefully when she starts this presentation, she'll give you a little bit of a background of how she went from throwing incredible big productions at the campus center for UT to globetrotting around the world. First as a hobby, and now as a profession, an inspiration, and someone who empowers other women to be able to explore the world on their own or in group travel today. So Lindsay, so excited to have you here. Take it away. Teach us all the travel hacking expertise.
Thank you so much, Allegra. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining Factora and myself for this lunchtime class all about travel hacking. My goal is that you leave this class with some tips and tricks to help travel more affordably, enabling you to travel more for less. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Lindsay. I'm a travel blogger and content creator, and I actually self-fund a lot of my own travel. Before I started my company, One Girl Wandering, I worked in theater. And I was actually a state employee working in the arts, which if you've ever seen the Venn diagram for, the middle is absolutely no money. So I had to figure out how I was going to fund my wanderlust with a very small budget. It took me years to start traveling. And the biggest barrier beyond trying to get someone to go with me was money. I took a huge Europe trip for my 30th birthday and I paid so much money for it. And every penny was absolutely worth it. I had a fantastic time. But I got to the end of the trip and I thought, wow, I am never going to be able to take another trip like this without spending years saving up again. And that's when I knew that there had to be a better way out there for me to be able to afford travel as much as I was seeing like everyone on Instagram do. So it was around this time that I actually got into travel hacking, and I realized that there was this whole world of how to afford travel. And about a year later, I was on a plane almost every single month, taking more trips than I had taken in the past 3 decades without adjusting my travel budget. So I'm going to tell you a few of my trips, a few of my tips and tricks for how I was able to accomplish this. So, one of the biggest lies that I believe for the longest time is that travel is expensive. Travel is definitely a privilege and it does cost money, but it doesn't have to be expensive. And you do not have to blow your entire travel budget on only 1 or 2 trips a year. If you make travel a priority and you follow even just a couple of the tricks that I'm going to teach you today, then you're going to be ahead of so many other people who are just completely stuck in this mindset that travel's too expensive for them and it's not something that they can afford to do. And I say that because I was someone who just a few years ago didn't even look into how I could possibly afford travel. And I just wrote it off as something that I could just never afford. So let's go ahead and break down this myth of expensive travel, because I think, like a lot of things that involve money, there are mindsets or preconceived judgments that are ingrained in us. And I firmly believe that any destination can be done on a budget, even if it's labeled expensive. One of like the most popular destinations that a lot of travel hackers like to use as an example is the Maldives. And that's definitely considered a very expensive destination when you think about it. You know, doing the overwater bungalow experience, such a luxury. And so many people are able to do that at a fraction of the cost because of travel hacking. I want you to throw out the idea that there are certain destinations that are too expensive for you, because there aren't. So you might be thinking, well, if this travel hacking thing is so awesome, why aren't more people doing it? Why isn't everybody travel hacking? And it comes down to like 2 different things. One is time. Travel hacking takes time. It takes time not just to learn, but also to do your research. It takes time to be conscious of how you spend your money, looking at deals, figuring out the best way to utilize points and miles. And some people just don't want to deal with that. They want quick and easy, which ends up costing them more. And this goes hand in hand with convenience. Many people, they can't be bothered and they will just pay that extra money to book their trip, get it done. And then they've spent way more than they needed to, and way more than on one trip when they could have taken that same budget and booked multiple trips. Now, the good thing is that once you start to get into travel hacking and you learn how to make a budget, you learn how to reduce your costs, it gets faster and faster every single time. You figure out your workflow and you have your own methodologies, and you basically like rehardwire your brain to know how to locate these deals, utilize points and miles, and take advantage of loyalty programs and really stretch your travel budget. So speaking of a budget, a lot of people just book their ticket, book their hotel, and then they deal with everything else when they get there. And unfortunately, that ends up costing so much more, because I'm sure if you've ever gotten back from a trip, you thought it was going to be a certain amount of money. You go and you check your credit card statement and you're shocked at how much you just spent on a trip. So I firmly believe that you should be making a budget for every single trip. And the reason is that once you're able to find the costs of everything, your flight, your accommodations, your activities, food, then you can start to figure out how to reduce those costs prior to your trip, so you aren't panic spending when you're on a trip. So here are the steps for building a travel budget. First, you pick a destination. Congratulations. Yay. And we'll get more into how to pick the best destination later on and the best ways to go about that. Next, you're going to need to find out a rough cost of what it could possibly be to visit a place. I recommend 2 different websites, budgetyourtrip.com or thetripcost.com. Both are different resources, and I recommend both of them because each one of them kind of has their own aspects of a trip that they touch on. So I recommend checking out both of them. So once you've gotten sort of a rough cost, that gives you a jumping off point to do your own research and figuring out all the stuff that you want to do, whether it be your accommodations, the activities, restaurant reservation, things like that. So what I personally do is I pull out my spreadsheet and I start plugging in all of my numbers, how much the hotel is that I want to book, how much are the activities going to cost, and their associated prices, etc. I'll even drop links and notes that might be helpful that I found during my research, like if a museum has a free night that can aid in my planning later. And then I'll take this estimate and I'll add about 10% on top of it. And that's, for some of those unexpected things that might come up, or things like souvenirs. Once I have my travel budget established, that's when I can start taking a look at all of my expenses and finding out where I can reduce them utilizing travel hacking. Two of the best places to reduce costs are, of course, your plane ticket and your accommodations. Now, remember when I said when we're going to touch on how to pick a place to go? Most people, when they plan a trip, they pick a destination first and then they look for a deal. And the best way is actually to do this in reverse, is to look for the deal and let that lead you to your destination. As you can see on this slide, there's a really fantastic chart here from Scott's Cheap Flights. They've now rebranded to Going. And basically, it shows you that the more flexible you are, the wider net you've cast, because you've not limited yourself to just destinations, but also in time. So as you start to be more flexible, you'll have the ability to capitalize on more deals. Probably one of the best examples that I have of this is I found a plane ticket that was for Hong Kong, and it was under $500 round trip. And it was a fantastic deal to go to Hong Kong for a week. Now, that destination was nowhere on my list of places to visit, but that flight deal was just too good to pass up. And it aligned with when I had availability to take time off from work. So I booked it and I had a fantastic time. But if I had only focused on one place or one certain time of year, I wouldn't have been able to capitalize on that deal. I would have missed out on a great vacation. Now, I like to say that the best time to fly is when there's a deal. So that's how I pick my destinations by and large. Instead of looking for a certain destination and looking for the deal, I'm looking at where the deal is and then I'm going to that place. So just to clear up any myths about cheap plane tickets, because I'm sure you've heard a ton of them out there. There are no certain times that are better to book tickets than others. While this may have been true years ago, flight prices are now dictated by algorithms, and prices are very volatile. Plane ticket prices can change multiple times in a day, heck, even multiple times in an hour. So no, airlines don't care about the cookies in your browser. They don't care if you're in incognito mode, and they don't care about your browsing history. They care about things like supply and demand, what their competitors are charging, among other different criteria that make up their pricing algorithm. Now, there are certain times of the year that are cheaper to fly in general. So things like off-peak season, you're going to find better deals and cheaper plane tickets. If you fly in the middle of the week as opposed to a weekend, you're going to find that ticket prices are cheaper. So avoiding things like summer, major holidays are going to yield better prices in general. But there still is opportunities to find deals during those peak times as well. One of my favorite times to book international travel is actually over Thanksgiving. I will skip going home for the holidays because it is so expensive to fly domestically during that time, but the United States is the only one who's celebrating Thanksgiving, and international tickets are usually a really good deal at that time. So if you want to skip out on grandma's dry turkey and instead treat yourself to a fall trip to Europe, I highly recommend looking around Thanksgiving as well as early December before the Christmas holiday really kicks off. This is also really great if you have limited PTO and you're looking to stack your days off with your paid time off, because you can get a nice week-long trip over Thanksgiving using minimal PTO. That's how I would travel all the time when I was still working at the theater. Is Thanksgiving, I would be international. So where are you going to find all these cheap plane ticket deals that I'm talking about? Well, the easiest way is to sign up for cheap fare alerts. And there are a ton of companies out there that provide deals right to your inbox. In fact, I have a list of 17 that you can download if you go to the link in my bio on my Instagram at one girl wandering, and I have it right there for you to take advantage of. 17 websites that'll send you cheap fare deals. So I've got 6 of the most popular ones listed here on the slide. Going, which like I said, was rebranded from Scott's Cheap Flights, Dollar Flight Club, Jack's Flight Club, Matt's Flights, Thrifty Traveler, Sacred Flying. But like I said, there's a bunch of these sites out there. And this was probably the first time that I discovered how to save on travel was through these websites. Now, each of these sends you different alerts right to your inbox, and then you book with the airline directly. I highly recommend that you only book your plane tickets with the airline and not through a third-party site like Booking.com or Expedia. And that's just because there are more consumer protections when you deal directly with an airline as opposed to going through an OTA or a online travel agency, so a third party. Now, each of these sites has a free version, and a few of them have a paid version where you can get even more deals like business class or first class tickets, points and miles fares. but the free versions are fantastic. And for many years, I only had the free versions of these websites. I recommend that you sign up for a multiple of these because not every site catches the same deals and they're each sending out different deals to their free subscribers. So that's why I say like diversify these deal sites that you're signing up for. And I can promise you that once you sign up for a bunch of these, you're going to have more deals coming to your inbox than you know what to do with. Some of the deals that have just popped in my inbox in the last day or so, Guatemala for $166 round trip, St. Croix for $261 round trip, Sydney, Australia for $714 round trip, Peru for $259 round trip, Tahiti, $651 round trip, and Milan for $530 round trip. So those are all at least half, maybe even more off of what you would normally pay for round trip tickets for these. And they're all on major carriers. It's not budget, stuff like that. It's like good, reputable airlines. So I could go on. I literally get dozens of these emails like this every single day. And the nice thing about these emails is that they are also very informative because they will tell you which airlines are running these deals, what the dates of and the length of the trip, and how to book these deals. And these websites also have really great newsletters, have tons of really great information. So if you're just wanting to learn more about how to travel for less, they save you money and are educational. So what's not to love? The other tool that I use when I am finding cheap flights is Google Flights. Google Flights Explore feature has gotten a lot of attention lately. There was a TikTok that went super viral about it. I've been talking about it for years. I like to call it the GTFO feature because it allows you to see all of your options for leaving your hometown. So that way, when you use it the way you use it is that you go into Google Flights and you leave your destination empty. You can put in your dates and you put in your origin airport. And then once you hit the search button, it's going to pull up a map that's going to show you the prices of everywhere that you can go on those dates. Once again, this is where flexibility comes in handy because you might find a fantastic deal to a destination that wasn't on your radar by utilizing the Explore feature. Now, there's some advanced options that you can use, like you can leave your dates blank and search by month and desired length of trip. That'll pull up even more options. You can also add additional origin airports. So for example, I'm based in Austin, which is a smaller airport. So I will frequently search Houston and Dallas because those are much larger markets and they get way more deals. There's also a ton of filters that you can use to narrow down your search, including price. So this is a very powerful search tool when it comes to looking for a great destination at a good price. I also use Google Flights to set up flight alerts for routes that I'm tracking. And there's multiple ways that you can do this. You can track by the destination and leave the dates empty. So Google will alert you anytime there's a good deal to the place. I do that for Japan because that's my favorite place to travel to. And I will just like drop anything for a good deal to Japan. So I'll also use it to track certain flights on certain days. Like say that I know that I have a friend's wedding coming up and I have to be there at a certain time. I'll track that flight and Google will send me an email when there's a change in the price. It also allows me to see what the price history has been so I can try my best to make an educated guess as to when would be a good time to book based on all of that information. And finally, you can also just use it to track specific flights. And I actually like to use this feature when I've already booked a plane ticket, because if the price goes down, I will go back and I will rebook my ticket and then receive that difference in a difference in fare as a flight credit that I'll then utilize later. I actually just did this with a trip to Greece and it saved me $300, which I can then use on another trip. So basically I booked this ticket to Greece. I had my flight alert up tracking that exact path and my flight dropped by $300. So I went right back to United and I rebooked my flight and then I got the difference into a fare credit, which I actually just used to book a ticket to Colombia. So, you know, it's a fantastic tool and it can help you out in a variety of different ways to save money. So some of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at airfare deals, especially the ones where you get an alert from these companies, because like I said, airfare is very volatile, is that these prices can change quickly. So if you see a deal, I highly recommend jumping on it as fast as you can. Now, the nice thing is that there are some protections that you have if you are, say, waiting for your job to get back to you about taking time off, or you're waiting for a friend to let you know if they want to come with you. The first of which being the 24-hour rule. When you book directly with an airline and your flight is from within or to the United States, basically it touches ground in the United States, you can cancel your flight within 24 hours for a full refund. No questions asked, no stipulations. The next one is that some airlines will allow you to put your fare on hold for a small fee. United is one of them. It's called fare lock. So sometimes when I would find a great deal and I would need more than 24 hours in order to figure out if I wanted to take advantage of it or if I needed to hear back from work, etc., I would pay that small fee. It was like less than 20 bucks that would basically hold that fare for me while I figure out what I wanted to do. And the cost of utilizing these services depends on how long you want to lock down the fare for. I think the max for United might be like 7 days. So that's what gives you a good amount of time to sort of figure out if you actually want to take that trip and you've found a good deal. Now, speaking of protecting your investment, I recommend that you don't book basic economy fares, that you only book regular economy fares. And that's because since the pandemic, airlines have allowed for no change fees when you book regular economy tickets. Unfortunately, with basic economy tickets, that's not an option. So if you needed to change or cancel for any reason, you would be out that money. But with a regular economy ticket, you can cancel your ticket, you can get a flight credit, which you can then use in the future. And like I said, it also allows you to change your flights if the fare drops before your travel date. Yes, it costs a little bit more, but the value and flexibility that it gives you, I think is absolutely worth it. Now, like I said earlier, because I live in Austin, it's a smaller market, I look beyond my home airport. And a lot of people don't think to do this. But it can be a great way to take advantage of deals that might not be available to you, especially if you live near one of those smaller airports. So yes, I will drive to Houston or Dallas for a good deal. And I do the math to figure out if it's worth my time and money. How much does the gas cost? What is it going to cost for me to leave my car someplace as opposed to just leaving from my home airport? And if all those things still allow me to save money, then I'm going to book that flight. But I also look even beyond my home state. An example of this would be I found a great fare from LAX to Japan, because I love it, for $500 round trip. This would have been a flight that if I was to fly from Austin would probably be around like $2,000. But what I did is I booked a cheap domestic fare into LAX the day before my flight. I got a hotel near the airport with a free shuttle service. And the next day I showed up for my cheap flight, flew to Japan, had a great vacation, came back, and then flew out later that day on a domestic flight back home. This is what's called a positioning flight. And even with booking an initial domestic flight and a hotel, it still saved me like $1,200. And in fact, I think I actually saved even more money because I believe I used points to book my domestic flight through Delta. So, and the LAX flight was nonstop. So breaking up my travel day was something my lower back pain definitely thanked me for. So on the flip side, you can book a plane ticket to a place that's close to where you want to go, but not quite exactly where it is your destination is. For example, if you want to go to Paris, but the tickets to Brussels, Belgium are like a few $100s cheaper, book that plane ticket to Brussels and then take the train into Paris. The most expensive part of a trip is getting across the ocean. So once you figure out the cheapest way to do that, and once you're inside a continent like Europe, it is so much easier and cheaper to travel to multiple or different countries. Obviously, just like with the positioning flight, you're going to want to do the math and make sure that you're still getting a good deal as opposed to now it's costing you even more money. And like I said, also consider your time because time is money. So finding deals on accommodations are a bit trickier, but the good news is that because there are so many different accommodations out there between hotels and vacation rentals and Airbnbs and Vrbo, you have a lot more to choose from than when it comes to flights. So I'm going to run you through my strategy when I'm booking accommodations to make sure that I'm getting the best deal. So the first thing is that, like with flights, I will only book through, instead of like flights where I'm only booking through the airline, I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey and I am totally fine booking with an OTA. OTA, like I said, is short for online travel agency. So a third-party booking site like booking.com or Expedia, which, by the way, those two companies hold the vast majority of the market share for booking websites. So even if you're not on the exact site of booking.com or Expedia, chances are you're on a site that's owned by one of them. So anyway, I will use an OTA to book an accommodation as opposed to directly booking with the hotel if the price is good, and that's a big if, And also if the hotel isn't part of a loyalty program. So like one of the huge hotel brands like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, etc. And that's because a lot of these sites have their own loyalty programs that I can take advantage of and to get better deals on rooms. Like if it's a small boutique hotel, I'm probably going to be booking with an OTA to take advantage of deals that I would get for being a repeat customer with them, because that's just not something that these small boutique hotels have. So what I want to do is I'm going to look for a refundable rate, because yes, once again, this does cost a little bit more money than a non-refundable rate, but it allows me to do a couple of awesome things. First, it allows me to book a good rate well in advance, but it leaves me open to deals I might find later. If the rate drops, I can just rebook at a lower price, or if I find another hotel that I like more, I can cancel without losing my investment. And if God forbid something happens where I have to cancel my trip altogether, once again, I will be able to get my money back. Now, there are a couple of times where it makes sense to book a non-refundable rate. One is if it's a last minute and you're guaranteed to not have a change in travel plans, go ahead and book that non-refundable rate. Or if you have something like travel insurance and you've got protection there, because if you get sick or injured or something like that, that non-refundable rate isn't going to be that big of a deal because you'll be covered by your travel insurance. I also like to use Google Travel to see hotel prices. And it's not just because I can see a variety of accommodations on their websites between hotels, vacation rentals, etc. But you can also see trends, and they can let you know if hotel prices are high, when is the best time to book. And, once again, it's just a great resource for a ton of information. Google Travel used to allow you to track hotel prices for certain cities. Unfortunately, that's not a feature they're currently supporting. So I would recommend using Hopper to track hotel prices, but I don't recommend booking through Hopper. I've just heard too many horror stories about their customer service. So I would go through a different, larger OTA and just use Hopper as research. Now let's get into loyalty programs. So loyalty programs are run by airlines and hotels, and they provide you with points and miles, as well as all sorts of other rewards in exchange for your loyalty. I recommend signing up for these programs, one, because it's completely free. It costs you nothing to sign up for them. It's convenient because all of your information is stored in one spot. It makes it so much easier to book quickly, especially if you're finding one of those flight deals and you want to be able to just tap through really fast. You get points and miles. And I would say that like the term frequent flyer or just the term frequent is so outdated because the majority of these programs no longer have points and miles that expire. So you can spend quite a bit of time racking up points and miles to redeem them in exchange for free flights and stays. So honestly, being a part of these loyalty programs, there's only upsides to them. Then of course, there are perks that you get for loyalty and climbing the status ladder. These programs, things like free upgrades on both flights and rooms, free breakfast, in some cases, other perks depending on the airline or hotel chain. Now, the one thing that I want you to remember is that points and miles are a currency. They have their own value, and you want to treat them like cash. Essentially, the whole idea is that you are trading in these points and miles, and you're getting the most bang for your buck. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Now, of course, the next step is how do you earn all these points and miles to take advantage of these benefits? And of course, free flights and free accommodations. That's the big goal right there. The first, of course, is to book a flight or a room. This is the easiest and most obvious choice for earning miles. So when you make a purchase with one of these companies that you have a loyalty account with, and they give you points that you can utilize later on. For airlines, you can also get miles when you book on partner airlines. So say United is your main airline, but you have to fly on Copa Airlines. These two airlines are a part of the same alliance. So when you go to book on Copa, you can actually plug in your frequent flyer mile account number for United, and you'll earn points on that flight as well. So that's something to keep in mind, that when you're flying on these partner airlines, there's 3 major alliances. So just like keep that in mind, that if you are booking beyond one of sort of like the major United States carriers of like United, Delta, American, that you are knowing who their partners are, and you're utilizing that benefit that you get to accrue points and miles when you are booking on their partners. So in addition to sort of obvious ways of how to earn points and miles, there's also a lot of programs that these loyalty accounts offer where you can earn miles from doing just some basic everyday stuff that has nothing to do with credit cards. A lot of these airlines have programs with restaurants where you can register your loyalty number and your credit or debit card and earn miles at qualifying restaurants. And it's all automatic. As soon as your credit card is swiped, it is entered into the program and you will automatically be credited those miles. Many airlines, as well as Wyndham, which is unfortunately the only hotel chain that is currently running this, have shopping portals where when you start your shopping session by going through one of their portals, you will earn miles on your purchase. If you ever want to see which shopping portal to use, because there are a ton out there, go to cashbackmonitor.com and you can search by retailer to see which shopping portals will get you the most bang for your buck. And finally, airlines and hotels partner with all sorts of businesses like cruise lines, car rental companies, floral delivery, wine clubs, and airlines will even partner with hotel chains where you can basically present your loyalty number when making a booking and you will earn points and miles for utilizing their partner businesses. Another example is that if you like to book Airbnbs, there's actually a portal through Delta where you can earn 1 mile per dollar spent with Airbnb. And the only thing you have to do is go to the website deltaairbnb.com before booking through Airbnb. And so that's a way that you can just easily earn points. And if you do have, say, a Delta credit card or a miles credit card, you will then earn miles for also having that transaction. So it's like 2 ways that you are making miles and points on one transaction. It's called a deal stack. So I like to joke that I don't spend $1 without getting something in return, whether it's points, miles, cash, or Starbucks stars, and utilizing things like shopping portals, knowing what programs will reward me when I use them is part of my travel hacking strategy that goes beyond credit cards. Which, speaking of Starbucks, Delta, Sky Miles, and Starbucks Rewards are actually also teamed up. So you can earn miles on every purchase you make at Starbucks. So your next latte could be getting you even closer to a free flight. Heck, there's even a website where you can answer surveys in exchange for getting United miles. So there's a ton of different creative ways that you can earn miles that have nothing to do with actually taking a flight or utilizing a travel credit card. So like I said, points and miles are a currency, and the goal is to get the most bang for your buck in terms of redemption. So real quick, here's an example of a flight that I was looking to book a while back with United. And as you can see, the cash price of this ticket was $436.80, or I could use 25,000 miles plus $11.20 for the taxes and fees. So the way that I determine my miles value is I take the flight cost and divide it by the miles cost, and that will tell me how much each mile is worth in relationship to the plane ticket. So in this case, my miles are worth 1.74 cents, and the typical value for a United mile is 1.3 cents. So I'm actually getting more value per mile with this redemption. But I can understand if math isn't your favorite thing. So good news for you, the points guy has a awards versus cash calculator. You can go right onto their website. And that'll do all the work for you. You just plug in your numbers and it'll tell you whether or not you should be using miles or cash to book plane tickets or even hotels. But understanding how value plays into the miles and points game is going to allow you to make good choices when you do go spend your miles and get the best redemption possible. Now, I will say that there are some people in the points and miles community that are really hung up on getting the absolute best redemption possible. But I will say that they are your points and miles. And at the end of the day, however you want to spend them and however benefits you is your choice. There are going to be some times where you have a ton of points and you just want to use those instead of cash out of your pocket, even if it's not the absolute best redemption ever. And that's totally fine because the goal is to save money. And if that lets you save money and take that cash that you have saved and put it towards other things, whether that be on your trip or for another trip, then you're already winning. So don't get super hung up on getting the absolute best redemption. Now let's talk about travel credit cards because this is one of the fastest ways that you can earn points and miles. There are benefits to getting a travel credit card. So the first is protection. Credit cards offer way more protection on purchases and fraud than debit cards. Many of them also offer travel related insurance and protection. So that's great. That's something that you want to have, and debit cards just don't do that. Another benefit is transaction fees. When it comes to foreign transactions, the majority of travel credit cards don't charge for foreign transactions. So every time you swipe your card when you're traveling, your debit card will typically charge you a fee for utilizing that card out of the country. Travel credit cards, you don't have to worry about that. Now, a lot of travel credit cards also offer really fun perks like lounge access or free check bags, or even things like Uber credits. There are a ton of perks to look forward to with these credit cards. And typically the credit cards that have the largest annual fees are the ones that are going to have the most and best perks. And finally, of course, you are then earning points and miles on every purchase that you make that can then be redeemed for travel. And that's something your debit card just isn't going to do for you. Now, when it comes to travel credit cards, there are basically two types of cards out there. There is your general travel credit card, which allows you to earn points that can be used towards a multitude of loyalty programs, which allows you to have more flexibility when you go to spend your points. Those are things like your Amex Platinum, Amex Gold, Chase Sapphire program. So that's those type of cards. Now, there's also co-branded travel credit cards, and they are things like the Delta Amex card or United Chase. These are great for travelers who have loyalty to one brand. Like say you live in Atlanta and you are always flying Delta, then having a Delta credit card in your wallet is probably going to be a great benefit to you because it's going to let you take advantage of perks like lounge access, free check bags, priority boarding, as well as allow you to get status faster with that airline, which opens up a whole new door of opportunities like free upgrades, companion passes, things like that. Most people will typically go with a general travel credit card as their first travel credit card. And that's just because of the flexibility that it allows you to have when you're getting your points. You can then use those towards accommodations or airlines, both in transferring those points out to a loyalty program or by utilizing the travel credit cards to book through their portal. Now, the one question I get all the time is which is the best travel credit card? And, you know, the thing is that they're all really great. I wish it was just like a straightforward answer. It could be like, this one's the best. And then you go apply for it and like all your travel dreams come true. However, there's a lot of factors that you have to take into consideration when you are picking a travel credit card. Because travel credit cards I may love and that are in my wallet and work for me might not be the best ones for you. So one thing that you need to take in consideration is your budget. Most of these cards charge a yearly fee. Like I said, typically the ones with the largest yearly fee have the best perks and benefits, but there's even cards that are no fee or have a low annual fee that are fantastic. One of the things you want to look at is how these perks offset the annual fee. For example, the United Explorer card has an annual fee of $95, but it also gives you a $100 credit for global entry. So right there, if you were to utilize that, essentially that wipes out the $95. And, you know, some people call their credit cards money makers because they are utilizing every single perk to the point where they're actually getting more than what their annual fee is. Now, I want you to take into consideration your spending habits. Many of these cards offer multipliers for certain spending categories. So if there is a card that gives you 3 times the points back on grocery shopping, but you typically eat out, then you're going to want to look for a card that will actually give you more points for restaurant spend. Next, you want to take a look at those perks that I said, and you want to make sure that you're going to use them. Lounge access is super awesome and really cool to have. But if you aren't traveling a ton or you only travel a couple of times a year and, you know, it's not going to be something that you utilize. Also, you want to make sure that the lounges that they're covered by these cards are actually in the airports that you will be traveling through. If you're not going to use that, then it's not that great of a perk. Another example is the Amex Platinum card, which currently has a benefit for Equinox members. But if you don't go to an Equinox gym, then you don't get to take advantage of that. So that's like not helping you at all. And finally, you want to think about what your travel goals are and your travel style, picking out a credit card that needs to match up with that and what you want to achieve. I recommend having a plan in place for every card that you open and to be deliberate when you're adding a card to your wallet. Now, a few things to keep in mind when you are getting a travel credit card is that you don't want to go into debt ever. You want to pay your card on time. Any benefits that you get from a travel credit card are pretty much gone the moment that you spend interest on the card. The idea is that you are playing the system. The only thing you want to spend money on this card is the annual fee. So however you need to go about protecting yourself, such as just setting up auto pay, putting a cap on your spend, or only using the card for certain purchases, I recommend doing that. The idea is to save money and make points and miles on your everyday purchases go even farther by utilizing travel credit cards, not by going into debt to get points. The next thing is you don't want to miss out on your sub or sign up bonus. This is the biggest benefit of having a travel credit card. And basically what a sub is that you'll get a big chunk of points in exchange for spending a certain amount of money in a limited time once you open up your credit card. So you don't want to miss out on that, because there are certain cards where you only have the opportunity to get that sign up bonus once in a lifetime. So you have to have a plan in place on how you're going to meet that sign up bonus. A lot of people open a credit card around sometime when they know they're going to be spending a lot of money, like a wedding or other large purchase. That way they know that they can hit their minimum spend and get their sign up bonus. And if you're wondering how all these high level travel hackers have a ton of points, it's from sign up bonuses. People will churn cards, essentially opening a new card every few months, getting the sign up bonus, and then moving on to the next card. And they keep very close track of when they're eligible to sign up for their sign up bonuses on the cards that they had previously opened. So they know that there's a certain amount of time that they can have a turnover, and then they can go back and reapply for those cards. Now, with that in mind, there may come a time when a card no longer serves you, but you don't want to close that card. This will impact your credit. What you're going to do instead is you're going to downgrade the card to one that doesn't have an annual fee. And you're basically going to put it in a drawer and ignore it, and maybe make a purchase on it once a year just to keep that line of credit open. Now, the next thing you want to keep in mind is that you have a plan for your points. It can be so tempting when there's a new credit card that comes out with a good sign up bonus to just automatically jump on it. But you want to have an idea of how you're going to utilize those points. For example, I recently opened up the highest level of the United card. I know I keep talking about United, but it's like a program, loyalty program that I really love. It's one of my favorite airlines, and I know their program like fairly well. Anyway, I opened up the United Club card last year when they had a huge sign up bonus, because I knew that I was going to be taking a trip to Singapore and Thailand, and I wanted to use miles to book that trip. So I did my research on how many miles I would need for the routing that I wanted to take for this trip. And once I hit that sign up bonus, I booked my tickets. It ended up costing me 160,000 miles and $206 round trip for 2 tickets. And that if I had paid in cash for that specific routing, it would have cost me about $8,000, which is an outrageous amount of money anyway for those tickets, but that was the routing that I wanted. So that's what it would have cost me. So I was able to save myself that money just by doing my everyday spending, meeting my sign up bonus for that card. And I was able to, take that vacation and take that $8,000 and use it someplace else. So I'm probably going to end up downgrading that card in the next year or so, and then wait for the next big sign up bonus to capitalize on that. So it's probably not going to be a card that I keep in my wallet for an extended period of time. Oh my gosh. So we have reached the end. And at the end of the day, I want travel to be accessible. And one of the best ways for that is reducing the cost. So I hope you walk away with some tips and tricks to utilize for your next trip. I really appreciate your attention as I talk to you through these tips for travel hacking. If there's one piece of advice that I can impart to you as you continue on your travel hacking journey, it's that you diversify where your research is coming from. There are a ton of incredible websites and people within the Points and Miles community that are more than happy to share their knowledge. And I recommend following and reading a variety, because everyone kind of approaches this topic differently. And certain tactics are going to resonate with you more than others. And yeah, so thank you so much. And I think we're going to take some questions now.
Yes.
Lindsay, that was awesome. First of all, I learned so much, and we have so many questions for you. We meaning the listeners. But one thing I wanted to touch on, because I think it's really well balanced with Factora's message, was when you talked about credit cards, and once you've gotten your points out of them, if it doesn't make sense to keep paying the fee, to downgrade them. And then you said, like, shut it in a drawer, forget about it, or like buy one thing at a time. I wanted to double click on that, because it really is important as adults to have high credit scores, because your credit score is what financial institutions use to determine whether or not you're trustworthy to give loans to. So you're probably going to need a car loan or a mortgage loan or some other use for credit in the future. And that's why it's so important to keep your credit score high. And there is something called your credit utilization and your credit limit. So your credit limit is the total amount of money that different financial institutions have extended you on your credit cards. Let's say your Delta card says $10,000 and your United card says another $5,000. So that means you have total $15,000 that you could spend across these credit cards. But if you were to get rid of the $10,000 card, now you only have $5,000. And so if you utilize more than 30% of your total credit limit, it is going to cause your score to go down. And that is why it's really important to be thoughtful about utilizing credit cards. Like, I am all for it. I think you should do it. Exactly what Lindsay says. It's a system. They just want to make sure that you play well inside of it, because the people who don't pay attention get bad results from the system, right? That's when you get the APR that skyrockets. That's when you lose your different points and eligibilities, and that's when you lower your credit score. So just wanted to mention that from the Factora side of things. And yeah, let's open it up to questions, because we got so many good ones that people want to know from you.
So let's stay talking about credit cards because there's lots of questions about that. Someone is asking, what are your top 3 favorite travel credit cards? And I'm sure this probably changes year to year.
It definitely does. So I can tell you right now, like what I have rotating in my wallet. So I've got my Chase Sapphire preferred card, which is the lower one. I'm probably going to go for the reserve here in about a year or so. Then I've got the Chase Business Inc., that's my business card that I also get travel points on. And you can open up a business card by just having like a side hustle. A lot of people don't realize that. But I will say that the spend to get the sign up bonus on them is much higher because they are a business card. But you can go after business cards by, if you just sell stuff on like Etsy or Poshmark or stuff like that, that's considered a business. You can get a business card. The next is my United Club card, which I said I opened up last year. So I've been utilizing that quite a bit. I'm going to be hitting United Gold status by the end of this year. So I'm very excited for that. That card has helped me achieve that because a lot of the co-branded credit cards will get you status faster because they're also taking into account your credit card spend as well as your actual flights that you're taking. My Delta Platinum card, because we are also my P2. So when you have a credit card strategy with a second person, it's called your Pig 2, your player 2. Because really what credit cards are, it's gamification. They want you to spend more to get more points. They are basically taken spend and turned it into a game where you get points, but you have to be smart about it. Anyway, so my P2, which is my husband, he flies Delta a lot for work. So he has huge status with them. So that's why we've got the Delta Platinum card. Then I also have my Amex Platinum card. And I'm actually going to be transitioning this from a personal Amex Platinum card over to a business Platinum next year, just so that my business isn't paying for the annual fee. But it's a great card, especially if you travel a lot, but it's also the one that has the highest annual fee. So you want to make sure that if it is a card that you want to go after, that you are looking at all the perks and you are utilizing them to offset that huge fee, which is almost $700, not taking into account if you add on any additional card holders, which are an additional fee. So, so those are my major cards right now that I've been utilizing in my wallet.
Okay, so Lindsay's got a lot of cards in her wallet. I guess just to double click on what you said about people who use a strategy where they get the points bonus and then they downgrade the card and then they wait a certain period of time before they can reapply for it. Do you know what that is? And then the follow-up question is, have you ever had the Chase Reserve before? Or when you said you're getting ready to get that one, had you had it at one point, left it for some reason, came back? I think people might want to know those strategies.
Yeah, so you have, each card has a sort of time limit. If you downgrade it too soon, they will claw back those points. So you want to make sure that you aren't downgrading too soon. So you want to make sure that you're timing that out. Most people, if they're doing a lot of card churning, it's every 3 months they'll be getting a new card, while taking into consideration that Chase has a rule called 524, which means that you cannot open 5 lines of credit cards within 24 months or they will automatically deny you. Business cards don't count towards that. It's only personal cards. So you want to always know where you're at on the 524 if you're going after a Chase card. Now for the Sapphire cards, you can only hold the preferred or the reserve at one time. So I will actually have to downgrade my preferred card before I go after my reserve card. And I'm just waiting for a good sign-up bonus for that one because I had the 100,000 points bonus when the preferred came out. And I think I got that like 2 years ago.
So basically you'll downgrade preferred to like their Freedom or some other free option, and then you'll open a brand new reserve.
Yeah, I also never recommend upgrading a card because you'll miss out on the sign-up bonus. They'll usually try to tempt you. Like they'll say, like, if you upgrade your card right now, we'll give you 5,000 points. Well, if you look at what it is just to open a new card, it's probably more on lines of like 80,000 points. So I will say that early on in my travel hacking, like career hobby, I made the mistake of upgrading my platinum gold my Amex Gold to a platinum. And that's one of those lifetime cards. So I can never get, at least personally, a platinum sign up bonus. And I screwed up. And that was like so early on. So I didn't know.
Well, we live and we learn. You're helping so many women right now because they're all writing they didn't know about downgrading cards. But yes, downgrading cards, if you are no longer using their benefits, is a great option to keep that credit limit open and to keep your utilization low, even if you're no longer using that card. So
now, another thing that you can do is I do this pretty much almost every year, is you can call up your credit card company and say, I am considering closing my card. And a lot of times they will give you some sort of little like sweet treat to keep the card open. Well, they'll say like, oh, well, if you spend $1,000, we'll give you like 30,000 points. So it's called a retention offer. And so you can just call up your credit card company and say like, hey, I'm thinking about canceling my card. Do you have a retention offer for me? And they can let you know whether or not there's one available for your account. So that's another great way to just earn a few more.
Lindsay, this is gold. This is gold. So something that we teach in Factora when we're going through credit cards and understanding how your score is factored is we do talk about how worthwhile it is to call your credit card company on an annual basis and ask for a credit limit increase, because when your limit increases, it automatically reduces your utilization and oftentimes bumps up your points for doing nothing other than getting a few extra $1,000 that you're not even spending on the card. So that's one way to gamify. And it's so interesting to hear that there's this retention offer for getting more points. So love that. We have more credit card questions.
I think we're going to switch gears because there's quite a few questions about the $300 credit story you told about Greece, on how you were able to cancel the flight, if you had to cancel the flight first and then rebook, or was the airline just to be able to make the adjustment and give you the $300 in credit? So if you can just explain and expand on that a little bit, that would be helpful.
Sure. So this was with a United flight, because like I said, I've been flying United quite a bit. And that's just like my preferred loyalty partner. It doesn't mean that United's better or worse than any other airline. But it's just the one that I typically end up using. So for United, I did have to cancel my ticket and then rebook, and the credit that you get once you cancel is instantaneous. So it was literally like a 2-minute turnaround where I canceled and then I already had my booking window open and I booked immediately. So if I had asked them to go through customer service, they would have charged me $50 to do that. And I was like, hell no, I'm getting all of my money. Thank you. So I just canceled and rebooked, literally within like 2 minutes of each other. Delta, on the other hand, you can do it directly through them and they will automatically you can automatically rebook. I mean, you have to do it yourself, but they don't require that you cancel and then rebook. So Delta has a different, policy on that. And I will say that Delta has a tendency that when they come up with a policy, other airlines start to follow suit. So hopefully that'll be something that carries over to the other major US carriers.
Awesome. Very, very helpful.
And like I said, that was a regular economy ticket, not a basic economy ticket. You cannot do that with a basic economy ticket.
Good to know. There's a couple questions about travel insurance. How do you decide when and what type of any travel and health global insurance, and how much to get the dollar value amount?
So there's a couple of different things that I recommend for this. One is to look at your travel credit cards and see what they cover. Some of them cover, car rentals. They'll cover flight delays, like all the poor people right now that are just, their travel plans are completely messed up this week because of all the flight issues that are going on. A lot of those credit cards, if they book that trip, they book that plane ticket with their travel credit cards, would cover their hotel costs. If they miss out on activities that are hotels or other travel plans that have to be canceled, it'd be covered through there. So that's a great benefit that travel credit cards have. As far as medical, I highly recommend looking at your current insurance coverage and seeing what they cover when you are abroad, if anything, and then getting a supplement based on what works for you. I use Safety Wing as my additional medical insurance cost. They're a really great, really easy company to work with. It's like not a lot of jargon, and they're also very responsive in their customer service. I fortunately have not had to submit a claim with them yet, So there's that. And then I also recommend Forbes does a list of top travel insurance every single month. And so you can go and you can compare plans there. And then there is also a website that's called insuremytrip.com where you can take a look at what coverages you could possibly buy through there. So really it's a very individual sort of thing, and also like how much your trip costs. But I always recommend having travel insurance because yeah, you're going to pay a little bit of extra, but God forbid something happen, because that's going to be so much more money than if you just had the coverage to begin with.
Just to follow up on that, are you getting travel insurance for even a weekend away domestically, or does it need to be an international flight when you're considering it?
For travel insurance, even domestically, yeah, of course, I highly recommend having travel insurance. My normal medical insurance is good nationwide, so I wouldn't be getting an additional supplement for that. But yeah, I mean, it's your money, it's your investment. And, you know, as you can see with what's going on this week with travel, there's a lot of people who are missing out on their hotel bookings, their car rental, you know, like all this stuff that they probably booked, that they probably got the non-refundable one because that was the cheapest way to go. And they are now not on their vacation. And now they're having to deal with booking in a new hotel room, maybe booking an additional flight. And that's so much more money than if they had just paid for a little bit of travel insurance to cover that for them.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question. We're going to end with a fun one. What are your top 3 international destinations for solo female travelers?
Oh, that's a good one. So Japan is my favorite place to travel to. I've been there 5 times. It's really solo female travel friendly. It's a very safe country. It's easy to get around. Don't be intimidated by the language barrier. Because there's actually a ton of English there, and Google Translate is incredible. There's also a lot of like solo dining options there. They're very friendly towards like counter dining, stuff like that. I also love Paris as a solo traveler. I know that there's people either love Paris or they hate Paris, but I feel like I am definitely main character vibe energy when I go to Paris and I'm traveling solo. And then finally, I would say Iceland is a great place to travel solo to as well. It's another very safe country, and there's a lot of like fun stuff to do. You will never have to worry about what you could possibly do while you're there. So yeah, actually on this slide, I've got Japan and Iceland and then Costa Rica up here. So, but yeah.
Awesome. If we didn't get to your question, you have a question for Factora, we'll drop our email address. And if you have a question for Lindsay, we will drop her Instagram so you can connect with her. And before we leave, we have an exciting announcement. We have partnered together to offer a giveaway, which we're announcing tomorrow to our social channels, but you guys are the first to know. You can enter to win a one-on-one travel call with Lindsay. That will be 45 minutes. She'll talk about personalized options for you when considering credit cards and how to optimize points you already have. And then you will also be entered to win a spot in our fall 2023 Wealth Circle, which is our online investment course that will teach you how to invest and build wealth with all of the money you're going to save by using these travel hacks. So thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you so much, Lindsay. This was so insightful and informative.
Lindsay, this was truly amazing. We're getting so many comments already. So I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people exploring your page. And yes, y'all, I hear you. You want an additional credit card strategy class. We will get that working soon. But thank you so much for sharing all these travel tips. Everyone, you will get the recording. You will not get her deck, but you will see the slides when you rewatch the recording and soak up all this juicy knowledge. Thanks, y'all.